So today we're going to practice some posing. This little girl right here is 3 weeks old, and this is typically when I start practicing. And one of the things that I do is just let them get used to the table, and I try to have something on either side, as you can see, a little bit of a barrier, so that they can't just hop off and take off on me. Her and her litter mates are used to being handled, although the little chin in the litter is very, very skittish. I'm thinking it's just a personality trait at this point. But as you can see, she's already calming down a little bit. I'm very excited about this little girl. I'm really excited about her markings. Chestnut is my, what I call my passion variety. It's not an accepted or recognized variety yet, but hopefully that will change in a few years. And in the meantime, we're working on creating some show quality chestnuts, and I'm very, very excited about her. So what I'm going to do now is just, I am right-handed, so you'll notice in all the pictures that on my pages that the bunnies are always facing the left because the camera's in my right hand. And as you can see, she's calming down. She isn't, freaking out, and which is a good thing. And what I normally do is just start to push her around a little bit, get her little bum set up, and see if I can get her to just set up a little bit. It'd be helpful if I had someone else here to hold the camera for me so I could use both hands, but we're gonna see if what I can get done here. And it might just be proved too much to do one-handed. I'm used to doing this with two hands. There we go. She's already starting to get into place a little bit. Good girls. Good girls. And I just keep it up. I know there are people, there are people who say they only do it for about 15 seconds at a time or so, and I actually keep it up until I get at least one good moment out of it that I feel is worthy. She's got to sit up a little more than this. All right, I'm gonna pause and work with her for just a second here. All right, mamas. Need to get her set up a little better. She's definitely big enough to do it. Sometimes at 3 weeks, they may be still too small. It's very important to me that they sit in a pose without me holding on to them. I have to be able to get a picture of them in pose. I do a lot of my evaluations of the kits through the camera. I think the camera sees a lot that when you're working with them and you're just looking at them that you might not notice or see. And head carriage is important to me. I like to see a real proud poser, I call it, with their head held nice and high. And their headset is also important for evaluating their composition overall. She's not fighting me, which is a really great thing. She's just turning 3 weeks now. So she's doing a really good job here. And at this point, I could be snapping pictures. So that's really good. She's being a good mamas. Good girls. Good girls. And there we go. This is her first real posing, and she's doing a great job. She's only 3 weeks old. She's really just still very much a little baby. I'm not going to ask a lot of her. I just want to try to get an idea of where she's holding her head, get her used to the idea. And I'm really liking this little kit actually out of the litter. She's my favorite. I'm loving her ears. I'm loving her little compact body here. She's not showing me a long back, which I'm trying to avoid in my chestnut line. Something I've had to be working on. And she did great. And that's enough for today for her. I might snap a couple pictures of her before I put her back, just for my Facebook page, and she's doing so good. I'm loving this little mamas. Hi, I got to come up with a good name for her. It's definitely a little girl, which I'm also very happy about. And that is our posing practice for today. And I'm going to get her litter mate out and see what we can do with her. Okay, so here we have the little chestnut doe that you just saw. This is her little litter mate. It's a little black buck. And he is smaller than she is. She was definitely the chunk-a-lunk of the group. There's a litter of 3. So we're going to work with him for a moment here. See if we can't get him to sit up and pose for us. It's definitely easy with 2 hands. And as you can see, he's actually doing it a little bit faster than his sister did. I'll give him a second to sniff around. Alright, little man. This little guy has a little bit of a different body than his sister, I've noticed. I think he might be a little bit longer. We'll see. They're still such babies. It's not always easy to tell. I'm loving his little open ears. I have a thing about ears. Anybody, the breeders who know me, know I have a thing about ears. And this little guy's ears, I think, are going to be okay. Alright, little man. Sometimes I actually just put my hand over their head to calm them and down a little bit. There's a lot of noise going on around. He's actually not in the same barn. This is the show bunnies, and I just took him out of the nursery. So he's like, what are all these noises and smells? The ducks are in the background. Come on, little man. And there, he gave me a little second, split second. He's not settling in as easy as his sister did into the pose. And that could be for many reasons. He might not have the composition as well. It might not be as easy for him to sit up in a pose. But he's doing pretty good. His head carriage, though, is not as great. Actually, that's not bad right there. I would be very, very happy with that. That was great. I could have snapped a couple pictures right there. And that's another important thing is I see a lot of Facebook pages where the kits are being posed and the hand is under their head, which believe me, I understand. I do it a lot, you know, but when you're actually taking the picture, you want to be able to take the picture. They need to be able to sit in that pose at least long enough for you to snap a picture, because that's where you're going to get the camera's view. And in order to see the proper head carriage and see where they're actually holding it on their own, if your hand's there, you're not going to be able to tell if it's natural or not. And they also they need to pose. They need to hold that pose long enough for you to be able to do that. Because when they get on the table, the judge wants to be able to see them in that pose. He's actually doing really great. I think I'm gonna give him a break. He's doing really good. Again, just turning 3 weeks old. So, good job, little mans. Good job. Okay, so this little one I think is a doe. And I am not quite sure. Well, I call her Skits because this is how she behaves all the time. She's very flighty. I'm not quite sure what her deal is. As you saw, her other 2 litter mates were much calmer than she is. She's really cute though. It's almost like she has a little attitude. But as you can see, she is not going to be an easy one. And she has had the exact same environment and handling and as her litter mates have. So I don't know. She's definitely the runt of the litter. I considered her very scraggly, and at one point I wasn't sure she was going to make it. She's a little black chin here, which I'm very excited about because I am interested in the goody colors, chestnut in particular, but I do have a pretty little black doe who gave me this little chin with the chestnut out of my chestnut buck that I grew out. And I don't know how this one's going to work out. I can see already though that her body composition, she's a little long in the back compared to her litter mates. And as you can see, she's not settling down at all. And I'm really not sure what her deal is. I have one other little chestnut doe who actually used to sit pretty for me all the time, and then as she got older she started doing this jumping thing where she'll jump straight up in the air and it's hard to handle her, and she does great at the show on the table, but she actually did jump right into a judge's face. So I'm not really sure what's up with this. This is a new thing for me. Usually my babies are very calm and sweet, and I'm just not sure if she just has a little attitude or what the deal is, but she's not going to be an easy one. She's calming down a little bit now, or not. She's going to prove me wrong. So she's going to take a lot more work. But as you can see, her composition isn't going to allow her to set up in a pose as easy as her siblings do, because she's a little long here in the back. The dip here is making me a little nervous for her as far as the composition does. Her head carriage isn't as high as I'd like to see it naturally, and so we're just going to have to give her some time. I'm not going to completely rule her out of my program at this age. It's way too early to make that determination. I did actually think her ears were a little longer. I have a thing about ears, as I mentioned. And, oh, there we go. She's trying to sit in. But again, the carriage is not how I'd want it. I'd like to see her head setting up a little bit higher. And I know a lot of breeders are going to say, how can you even think about evaluating them this young? I do. Everyone has their own methods and their own opinions on how to do things, but I can see a lot from this kit compared to her two siblings. She's just not up to par in comparison, in my opinion. She could change, though. The one thing about LionHeads is they do change a lot in just within a few weeks, and she could change. But in comparison right now, she's definitely the least favorite for me out of the three. The chestnut is definitely my favorite as far as their little composition goes. But again, her head, even you can see, is not well, there she's a little bit more proud. She's sitting up a little better. See, that's much better. So she could change my mind in a couple weeks, but she still has the dip, this dip here, and which is something that we're trying to avoid overall. So I'm going to put her back, and actually the reason I kept her out a little bit longer is just to see if I could get her to calm down a little bit. She's so skitsy. But as you can see, she is calming down a lot compared to just a couple minutes ago, and I'm very happy about that. And so we'll see what happens with this little one. She's awful cute, very alert, obviously. Whoops. So I'm going to put her back, and I'm going to get a litter out that's actually getting ready to turn 8 weeks, just to show you the difference in how much they change, and also to show you what just a little bit of practice can do, because these guys will sit up nice and pretty. I am hopefully they won't prove me wrong. Okay, so this little guy here is one of my keepers. I wasn't here. He's done. He always does this. He's all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as you can see. And then as soon as he gets into a pose, he starts to fall asleep on me, which I haven't quite figured out. I've not seen this happen before. So he surprised me because he was a little scraggly when he was first. It's hard to keep the roos clean. But as around 6 weeks, I took him out with his litter to evaluate, and he surprised me when I was posing him, and I actually looked at the pictures. I saw a few things that I really liked about him, and I decided to grow him out and see what happens. Not in love with the ears, honestly. Little narrow for me, but they are nice and clean, which is very, very important. But I'm really loving how compact he is. And I'm loving how he holds that head up. If you can see how high he's carrying his head, I call that the proud pose, which I really, really like, and it's really nice to show a proud poser. But as you can see, I've barely touched him, and he's up in that pose. Is it 100% perfect? No. I can move his feet a little around. I need to be a little bit more forward. He's like, what are you doing to me? Leave me alone. One thing I'm loving about him is, too, there's absolutely no pin bones when I'm feeling him. You can see how nice and compact he is. But there he goes right back up into that nice proud pose, which is something and back asleep. I'm not sure what that's all about. This is his thing. But I'm really looking forward to him. So he is turning 8 weeks next week, actually, on Monday. It'll be the 8th week for him and his litter mates. And we'll see how he turns out. I'm going to hold on to him, and we'll go from there. But that's just an example of just a few moments of practice. I do not have a lot of time to practice, so my practice sessions are actually further in between than I would like, but it really doesn't take that much to get them from what you saw with the 3-weekers to a 7-weeker, and just with a few poses in between. So he's gonna take his own little break here, but I'm gonna get a couple more out for you and we'll go from there. Okay, so this is Twilight. Twilight is going to a youth breeder, and as you can see, she also is a proud poser, and I actually only touched her a couple little times in the front, and this is what I like. I don't want to have to manhandle them. I want them to settle into their pose. They know it's business time by this point. Again, she's the ruse litter mate. She knows what time it is, and even again, I don't do this every day. Sometimes I don't even get to do it every week, depending on my schedule. Settle in, mamas. But she's adorable. She was actually going to be my pick of the litter, but somebody actually saw a picture of her and really wanted her, and so I said okay, and I'm liking the Rue better, I have to say at this point, but she's definitely a cute doe. If I had to pick her apart a little bit, there's a couple things that I don't like, but what I do like is that she does have a nice headset, nice and high headset, and she does have her body composition here is pretty compact. She doesn't have that dippy dip thing going on, which are really good. So I think she'll do okay for the youth breeder. I'm going to work with her and make sure that she has what she needs from this little doe. But I think Twilight's a great name for her, and I'm very happy with her. But as you can see, she's holding her pose nice. I'm not having to touch her or remind her. Is it a perfect pose? No, but she's still, I mean, we're talking about a 7-week-old baby here, and she'll get it as the new owners practice with her. She's going home next week. Oh, cutie cute. Settle in. Settle in. Settle in. Good job, mamas. Alright, and I'm going to conclude here with Blue, my little blue tort buck that I've absolutely fallen in love with. Many people know I'm not big fans of torts, but he has won my heart over, and as you can see, I barely touch him, and he knows. I put my finger in front of his face, as you can see, and he sits right up. He knows what he's doing, and again, I honestly have not spent tons and tons of time with him. He was a natural from the beginning, which goes to his breeding and just a natural composition of his body. He's got an amazing conformation, as you can see. No dippity doos going on. Nice compact little body here. Nice open, very very clean ears, and he has the proudest pose I think I've ever had in my barn. Honestly, as you can see, he just sits and sits and sits, but it's very easy for him to do so. It's a comfortable position for him because his body, his conformation is there. So I can actually just take pictures of him all day. He's my therapy. I call him my therapy bunny because I can just mess with him all the time. But here he is. So that just gives you a progression from 3 weeks. Let's see, what we have, 3-weekers, and unfortunately the other ones I wish I had someone around 5 weeks to show, but I don't. And you can just see what you can easily, just with a little bit of time and effort, get to as far as posing practice goes. These are definitely for the upright bunnies. We do have Hollands. I don't have any babies right now, but I do the exact same thing with them. And I find the LionHeads are a little easier. The Hollands are a little more challenging when it comes to the posing practice. I think they're just a little more stubborn, maybe. I'm not sure, but there you go. I hope you enjoyed posing practice. This is at Whispering Pines Micro Farm, and we are in Maine, and hopefully I'll meet some of you at some shows this coming year. I'm looking forward to it. We have one in Westbrook coming up to kick off the season, and I will see some of you there, I'm sure, and hopefully we'll broaden our horizons this year a little bit, and get out of New England as well. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know, and I hope that it helps someone get started in posing their babies earlier.